We've got a team with a goalie crisis. We've got a team that just needs to start selling, and we've got a teapot. We're going to talk about all of that and more on today's episode of Locked On NHL.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, my name is Sarah Avampato, one half of your Locked On NHL Wednesday team. You can also hear me covering Locked On Los Angeles Kings for anyone who wants to subject themselves to California hockey. You can find me there. Thank you for making today's show here on Locked On NHL your first listen of the day every day. We're available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on the YouTubes. And as always, here on Western Conference Wednesday, I'm joined by Jess Belmosto, host of Locked On Calgary Flames. And we're going to be looking at some teams that are having some issues. Well, 2/3 of our show is going to be looking at teams that have some issues. We're looking at the Minnesota Wild today, who are, fun. They have the Kaprizov factor, but they also have goalie problems. We're also going to look at the San Jose Sharks, who are just bad. Sorry, guys, but they're bad and need to start thinking about who they might be trading at the trade deadline, which is coming up. And then we're ending today's show looking at your favorite and mine, Tyler Toffoli. We're going to talk about him on today's show. But let's start it out with Minnesota. Jess, what is happening with the Wild?
So I feel like when we were earlier this season, we had talked about Minnesota and Nashville being these two teams who don't know if they're good or bad. And we never know, when they're in the standings, are they first in the center they're in the central or whatever. And then, what's going on there? What are they doing? Because I feel like they're such an inconsistent team. They have allowed a lot of goals recently. I'm trying to do quick math, and unfortunately, so that's 5, 10, 5, 9, 13. We're looking at 19 goals in the last 4 games.
No, that's bad. That's bad.
Yeah, if you're scoring that many goals, that's good. Your team, for those of you who may be new to hockey, you want to be scoring that many goals. But for the Minnesota Wild, that's not good at all. And they've been having some issues with Cam Talbot, who, as a Flames podcaster, I am very familiar with. And I'm very interested to see his numbers. I'm pulling them up right now. Oh, okay. Well, that's not good. So he has, oh boy, 97 goals allowed. And I guess that 9% of goals against for the Wild have been in after their goalies pulled.
Oh, that's I'm familiar with that problem.
Yeah. So that's not good at all. He has a 3 goals against average, which again, I feel like anything higher than a 2.4, 2.5 is not great. And then his save percentage is a 908.
That's aggressively mediocre.
Yeah. Calgary is known for breaking goalies, but he had a strong first year in Minnesota last year. So I thought that, maybe he had just escaped it because he's a nice guy. But he's not looking too hot. And you got to feel bad for him because it is, a playoff team that's out there. But unfortunately, when you don't have strong goaltending and strong defense, you're not going to be able to stop those 19 goals in 4 games.
Yeah, it's not great. Cam Talbot had a great start to the year, made the All-Star game, had a really, just overall helped kind of carry the Wild through the beginning part of the season. And yeah, now he's struggling. Capo Kakinen, who's their backup, who is probably playing more games now than he ever has in his career at this level, but has been, fantastic at the AHL level. He's struggling too. And the Wild's front office has basically kind of said, this team has to pull themselves out of this. We're not going to go get another goalie. Like, you guys have to figure your nonsense out. And looking at the Wild, there's not much help to be had in terms of, guys they can call up from the AHL who can help with the situation. They have Marco Rossi down in the AHL, but the Iowa Wild aren't particularly good. They're in 6th out of 7 teams in the Central Division. So there's not a whole lot that's going to help. Yeah, Minnesota. So, it's like, does this team actually have the people on it right now who can pull them out of this? Like, because they're slipping down in the standings. They're right now, they're in the third spot in the Central. And there have been times where I feel like they've been, number 1, number 2 seed. They're only, barely out of that, the wild card spot. So it's not like, they're very secure in their spot. They have 67 points. Dallas has the first wild card spot. They also have 67 points. Minnesota's just played fewer games. So it's precarious for the Wild right now.
Yeah. And last week I was previewing the Wild because they faced the Flames, and they've only won 1 game because they had 65 points when I previewed them. So that's comforting.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I just looked. Their record is 2-8-0 in their last 10. They've won 2 games.
That's not good.
No.
And I think one of the fun parts about the Wild is the Twitter subculture that the team has kind of cultivated, and it's fun to watch. I'm not a Wild hockey consumer unless they're playing my teams, but the personalities there are great, and I think that makes up for the brutal hockey that the fans are subjected to, what seems to be night after night now.
They also have a very good team dog.
They do,
which I think is important.
I think that every team needs a team dog, and we do this every few shows.
It's crucial. It's crucial to like everyone's happiness.
It is. And I think, hopefully that dog is providing some support to these players in a time of need.
Yeah, and it feels like some of their top players who, you can rely on to get you out of scoring issues, a lot of them have been kind of in slumps right now. If you look back at Kevin Fiala, he has, 1 goal over his past 5 games. Matt Zuccarello, no goals in his past 5 games. Kirill Kaprizov is still doing Kirill Kaprizov things. He has in his last 5 games, he has 5 goals and 3 assists. So he at least is doing stuff, but he can't keep the puck out of the net. That's not his job.
Right. I mean, Brady Tkachuk suited up to play goalie during practice. So, if that's what the Wild need to do to test things out, maybe we have a goalie who also scores.
Yeah, live your best lives. Have fun.
Exactly.
Yeah, they are a team that needs some help, but might not go out and get it. So we'll see what happens there. The next team we're going to talk about has been kind of linked in some trade rumors as a possible target for the Wild, but if they're not making moves, they're not making moves. We're going to talk about the San Jose Sharks coming up right after this. But before we do that, let's talk snacks, because I don't know about you, but I love snacks. They're like the highlight of my day is a good, nice, solid snack. And especially if you're like me, you're someone who maybe gets a little bit hangry and needs to make sure you eat so you don't become like a monster person. And so one great thing to help you out with the hanger and to help you out with having snacks that are both delicious and nutritious is Built Bar. They are protein bars that taste like candy bars. They come in tons of great flavors, and they have fun varieties like the Built Puff, which is the first ever protein-infused marshmallow, and it does indeed taste like a marshmallowy dream. They are covered in 100% chocolate. They are delicious. They're fun to eat. You can eat them hot. You can eat them cold. Well, don't eat them hot. Actually, I melted one and it was really tragic. So don't do that. Like,
Don't do
it
it.
was it was messy. But yeah, no, eat them cold. Eat them like, put them in your pocket. Don't do that either. That'll be messy too. But they're delicious. They are a great snack for you if you're looking for something healthy. So they are low in calories, low sugar, high protein, high fiber, and just all around delicious and come in tons of great flavors. If you want to check out Built Bars, if you want to see what flavors they've got, because the sky is the limit with Built Bar, you can go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, and get 15% off your order. That is promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off some delicious snacks at built.com. So this is, of course, Locked On NHL, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And thank you for tuning into this show and making it your first listen of the day. For your second listen, go check out Locked On Now once we're done here. You can get nightly recaps of every NHL game with analysis from all of our local experts. So you get to hear from our hosts across the network with their quick reactions, their first, gut instinct feelings all about whatever their team just did or didn't do or failed at or was really cool at. So you can go check out Locked On Now to hear all about what's going on with the NHL. It is free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So up next, we're looking at the San Jose Sharks. And if we're talking about teams that are bad, well, they're one of them. They're currently just way out of. There was a hot minute where all three California teams were in sort of playoff positions or playoff positions. The Kings have been holding it together. The Ducks, a little iffy. San Jose just decided they didn't want to, be part of that narrative anymore and decided to be bad.
Well, the Sharks they got tired. They didn't want to swim anymore. They're just floating or sinking, I guess.
Right. And I mean, what happens when sharks stop swimming is it's bad news.
It is bad. The tank is on for them. Always love the content that the guys from Locked On Sharks put out because they have fully embraced the bad.
Yeah.
And have just made it their brand. And they're like, you know what? We're not even going to try to spin this. We're all in.
Yeah.
All in on the bad.
Yeah. And, as someone who has covered a team that is, surprisingly good this year, but has been very bad for several years, sometimes that's all you can do is say, you know what? Fine. We're rolling with this. We're going to embrace the draft. We're going to embrace the fact that things look terrible. And right now for San Jose, things look terrible. They have no real goalie at the moment. All due respect to Alex Stalock, who they got in a trade for future considerations because they ran out of goalies. But for the Sharks, their regular standard goaltenders, James Reimer is hurt. Aiden Hill is hurt. They called up Zachary Sawchenko from the AHL. He has played in he started one game in the NHL. He's gotten into little chunks of others, but one game in the NHL. Alex Stalock is a familiar figure to Sharks fans, but he is certainly past the prime of his career, and it's not pretty. And much like we said, Minnesota doesn't have any help coming in the AHL. Well, neither do the Sharks. The Barracuda are last in the Pacific Division. It's rough for the Barracuda. They've won 3 of their last 10. There's no goaltending help there for them. There's not much of any help there for them. And so the Sharks, they need to start selling very quickly.
But who's their first target? Because they're supposedly in talks of extending Hurdle. But again, that could just be all smoke and mirrors because, right, they're trying to be no, take these bad contracts. Ooh, you want Erik Karlsson so bad. Just trying to manifest this just amazing trade deadline for themselves. And yet I don't know who on earth would take bad contracts. Besides, actually, that's a lie because Seattle and there was another team, I think it was Arizona, kind of came out and said like, "Oh, we'll take on contracts." Okay.
Here you go.
That sounds
Enjoy
like a you
yourself.
problem.
Right.
Good luck.
Yeah.
But I'm very intrigued to see what they do. I think that if a deal with Hurdle was going to get done, I feel like it would have been done by now,
Mhm.
because I think we've been talking about this since January, or at least very early February, and we are now in March.
Mhm.
The deadline is, I think, when we're recording
Couple
this, it's
weeks
about,
away.
yeah, a couple weeks. Like, we're getting there very soon, and um I don't know, I feel like there should be some a sense of urgency there, especially if you're looking to rebuild.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's like, if you're rebuilding, as much as maybe, Hurdle might want, which is you want to keep him as much as he's a fan favorite, he's already 28 years old. This is maybe, his next contract might be the last one he gets.
Last one.
Uh, if I were Thomas Hurdle, I'd probably be thinking real hard about, do I want to stay through a rebuild? Or do I want to try to go to a contender that I could possibly get a Stanley Cup with? And I think the Sharks have, they've seen, you know, Joe Pavelski has left, Joe Thornton's left, Patrick Marleau, like,
Yeah. I
is,
will
in there.
happily offer them a spot in Calgary if they want to take Sean Monahan.
Oh, there you go.
I
That'd be
mean, I
fun.
think that's a fair deal. But
Yeah.
I'm just I think their biggest problem was truly moving Evander Kane.
Mhm.
Like, that was I don't wanna say the first domino to fall, because not much has happened after that, but I think that was kind of the first block in Jenga that needed to be pulled,
Mhm.
and now this next one is moving a player like Hurdle,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
extending him, whatever
Yeah.
you have to do with him.
Yeah, and I feel like her Timo Meyer a lot. He's also having a
Yes.
really great season. Scored like, I don't know, 18 goals in one game against the Kings or something.
Yeah.
I've forgotten that game because it was terrible. He's a very young player. He's got one more year on his contract until he becomes a restricted free agent, so he could be, attractive to a team who's looking for someone with, a little bit more control over their future. And like, looking at the Sharks roster, they have a lot of guys who this is their last year of their contract. And so, they're guys like, Nick Bonino, Matt Nieto, like guys who could be good depth pickups for a team that's just looking for like an upgrade on their fourth line from, some guy. So they could, if they wanted to, they could have a very active trade deadline and get, prospects and picks for the futures. Like, I just don't know how serious they are. Like, this team should have been rebuilding years ago, um,
Right.
and hasn't.
They should have planned for the future a
Yeah,
while ago, and unfortunately for them, they just never did that.
yeah, yeah.
And I think that I don't know, all these general managers seem to be friends with each other and whatnot. So maybe San Jose needs to call Arizona and say, "Hey, can you help me?"
Right? Like, what do you want? Are you interested
What
in a Mark Edward Vlasic? Would you like him? We'll just
Right, like, what do you have a goaltender that I can have? Something. Do you have
anything.
anything I can take off of your shelf and give you something else? But it's very confusing for me when teams find themselves in these predicaments, because I feel like you should always be planning for the future,
Hmm.
especially when you've been kind of, I don't wanna say bottom of the barrel, because that sounds really mean, especially when they were in the Western Conference Final just in 2019,
Right.
but, you know,
But
that just I don't this has been a long time coming.
yeah.
How do you not piece it together? And I'm not saying you have to have this successful, quick, immaculate
Hmm.
rebuild or adjustment transition period, but I don't think you should be finding yourself in this bad of a situation.
Yeah, I feel like there was a lot of, like, hoping things would change and then realizing way too late that nothing was gonna change. And, I feel like their goalie situation, the fact that they picked up a guy who hasn't been in the NHL for a while just because they needed a
Yeah.
goalie, instead of making a trade, like, they could have made a trade probably for, like, a a more goalie. And I think it
Yeah.
says a lot about, like, what they know about their team in that they're like, "Yeah, fine. We just need a person to
We
stand
need a body.
in the net. Have
Yep.
fun."
It's like when you work in retail and it's like that holiday hiring season and you're like, "I don't care if you call out 95 times.
Right,
Just
just
we
be
need
here
an extra
a little
body
bit.
on the roster. You're here.
Yeah.
Great. Stand there while you're here.
I mean, that sounds like a great plan for an NHL goalie. Just stand there.
Stand there. I
Yeah,
don't know. Do something."
yeah. Well, this is a team to keep an eye on. We'll see. Like I said, I don't know how serious they are about, really burning everything down and starting over again. But, guys like Hurdle and Meyer are names to keep an eye on, especially if your team is looking for a high caliber player to add and might not mind, overpaying to Doug Wilson. Like, good luck with that. Have fun. I feel like he
Yeah.
manages to fleece people on trades all the time. So, good luck. So we'll, of course, be keeping up on that. And we're going to close today's show with a little guy that we like to call Tyler Toffoli. We're going to talk about him and his performance on the Calgary Flames coming up right after this on Locked On NHL. So Tyler Toffoli, huh?
Oh, love him.
what?
What a
So
guy,
yeah,
honestly.
what a guy. I feel like every time I turn around, I see like Flames Twitter just like they have like immediately taken to him. Like they instantly were like, "This
Yeah.
is our boy."
Yeah, it was kind of like a moth to the light, honestly, like, they just kind of were like, "A player that's good wants to co," well, not that he wanted to come here because he's traded, but like, "Oh my god, Brad Treliving did something," and, he certainly did because Toffoli has had 7 goals in his, last 10 games, or his first 10 games with the Flames, and has had 10 points, so, 3 assists, not too shabby. He had 2 goals against the Oilers on Monday, and,
Nice.
I just I'm truly dumbfounded because I don't he really can do anything and play anywhere and be successful no matter who his line mates are.
Yeah, and that was always one of the fun things about him on the Kings, and I think that, like, I mean, they made the right move in trading him, and they kind of needed to kickstart, you know, moving out guys, then getting some of those older contracts off the books. He's still a great player. I feel like before Montreal traded him to Calgary, there had been a couple rumors that maybe the Kings were going to look into bringing him back, and I was like, okay, great, like
Say
no
less.
complaints there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, like, he just is except for, like, that one dude on Twitter who thinks that Tyler Toffoli's, like, a terrible human or something, he is just beloved by everybody.
Yeah, honestly, like, I have never seen someone so just, like, unproblematic, and I know that's, like, such, like, no one is truly unproblematic, but I think if there is one, it's Tyler Toffoli because
Right,
he is
like,
just
yeah, he's just
I
a
I I
like,
don't
a
get it.
gentle bro. Like,
Yeah.
definitely had some shenanigans in LA when he was here,
Oh.
but, you're, like, 22 in Los
I was just
Angeles.
gonna say, is it, like, age appropriate
Right,
shenanigans? Like
right,
Tyler
yeah.
Sagan in Boston and just
Right, right.
that
Yeah, it wasn't like, "Oh, this was, no."
mm,
It was just like,
you're
"Oh,
a
you did something dumb, but
problem.
you're like a baby." But,
Right.
yeah, I mean, also one of my favorite things about him is the knock on him before when the Kings drafted him was, like, he's not a good skater, and he's still not a good skater, and
But
I
he's
feel like yeah,
fast-ish.
he's fast-ish. I feel like there's, like, the one goal that he scored with the Flames where he was, like, very clearly, like, mid-falling, like, it was
Yep,
the ugliest goal I've ever seen, but
yep,
also, like, he did it.
right. And I think at the end of the day, that's what matters. As long as it's
Yeah,
done,
goes
it
in the
doesn't
net.
have to be pretty,
Yeah.
We're not looking for Sports Center highlight reel goals every time, I'll take it. And I
Yeah.
think my favorite thing is just how so the Flames do they put out a video of, the guys heading out to from the locker room to warm-ups or whatever. And like after the second game, he was by the door with Lucic, like high-fiving players.
Yeah.
A leader.
Yeah.
Please.
I do love that they like reunited that
Yeah.
bromance of him and Milan Lucic, because they somehow became like very quick BFFs when Lucic was on
Yeah.
the Kings. Like I don't get it, but clearly
Toffoli
they're
was
buddies.
in his wedding party.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Like whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I'm all here for like Kings North with,
Yeah.
between them and Sutter and Trevor Lewis, and why not? Like cool.
Right. Like
Rock on.
last year,
Fun.
it was Flames basically just stole all of the Canucks free agents.
That's right.
But now it's just like North LA. It's
Yeah,
fine.
it's fine.
Kings
It's
North.
just, cold.
Yeah.
And we had this conversation on Twitter, which is how we decided to talk about Tyler
Yeah.
Toffoli today, to kind of close the show with a little bit of fun, because he is somehow a man of many nicknames. One of the ones he picked up in LA, and also I think it actually kind of originated from his time in the AHL. I don't really know that it's like a family-friendly name, so I'm not going to say it on the show, but he's got one nickname that's a little questionable. And actually, his funny backstory, his wife, for his like bachelorette party that she did or whatever, they all had like bathing suits made with this non-family friendly name, and a little cartoon of Tyler's face on it. So you can find those pictures are on the internet. It's very endearing. But he has that nickname. He goes to Montreal, and goes and hangs out there. I think Montreal I feel like they gave him a nickname too.
They probably did.
It was probably in French. And then now Flames Twitter has taken up calling him Teapot for like his like I'm a little teapot like stance that he
Just
has.
like the way he stands, and then with his hand like on his stick, he looks like a teapot.
And I feel like, didn't someone ask him and he was like, I don't know, I was just comfortable.
Yeah, he's like, I'm comfy. I don't know. Like it's not that
Why
deep,
is this
but
a thing? Yeah. He's just a very like very, very simple boy. But so I whenever you were talking about this on Twitter, I was like, have you heard about how like he was occasionally called Cupcake by some Kings fans? And your answer was no. And I was like, all right, this is how we're ending the show
oh my god.
on Wednesday. So story time with me about the LA Kings and Tyler Toffoli. Back when he was a young, impressionable, like charming young rookie, of course, the team took advantage of their charming young rookies to like do fun little videos with them. And like honestly, some of these videos, like highlighting the players' personalities, were some of the things that got me into, following the Kings a lot more, because I was like, look at these charming dumb boys. But so there's like a series of videos with Tyler Toffoli, Tanner Pearson, and Martin Jones. And Jones and Pearson lived together. Toffoli just always was like crashing at their place. And so they did one of those like, MTV The Crib kind of things for the local network. And one of the, they're doing the tour of the house, and they're just kind of talking about like, getting to know each other. And someone asks the question like, oh, like what's everyone's kind of like favorite food, favorite junk food? And Martin Jones totally sells out Tyler Toffoli, and he's like, his favorite food is cupcakes. Don't let anyone tell you different. And it snowballs from there, because then he's at like a charity event, and he, the question is like, oh, what have you been eating here? He's like, I just had a great cupcake and was really pumped about it. And then like later, he like, in one of those like scoreboard feature videos was like, I'm Tyler Toffoli. My favorite color is blue. They're like, favorite junk food. And he very, eagerly is like, my favorite junk food is cupcakes. And so it just went off. It went from there. And the side of hockey fandom that, has a little more fun with stuff like that picked up on it. If you go in like the Wayback Machine to like 2015 Tumblr, you can find a lot of very good gift sets and everything. of our charming young children.
Oh my God.
Snowballed from there of people just starting to call him Cupcake. At one point, he had a not a deal, but he did a thing with Sprinkles Cupcakes, where they actually had special Kings themed cupcakes, including ones with his little face, a little cartoon of his face on it.
Oh,
And the proceeds all went to the King's Care Foundation that works with kids in the LA area. But so they totally capitalized on that. And there was one fan on Twitter. This was the season where he scored 30 plus goals as well. Made a cupcake tracker. And so every time he scored, and I will totally link this on Twitter, every time he scored was a new cute little image with a little cartoon cupcake and a little cartoon Tyler Toffoli face. And so there has been a chunk of King's Twitter that still to this day will call him Cupcake because it's adorable, and he totally went with it.
I think that Flames Twitter needs to do their job and bring this back.
I am into that.
I think that this is the homework assignment for the week, and I will probably just I don't know. I'm gonna make it happen.
Yes. Flames Twitter, please do this for us. Kings fans will love you for picking up on this. We miss our boy.
Yeah.
I feel like he's a player who is just I was at the game when the first game he was back when he was with Montreal, and Kings fans just very warmly welcomed him back. He's always going to be a big part of that that fan base, and I think that Flames fans should get behind this one. Cupcake. It's also a name I can say on the show, unlike one of his other nicknames.
Yeah, I really don't know how that one came about, but I think
somewhere I have that information.
Yeah, I don't know. I might go to Reddit and see what they have to say and where it came from. Maybe go back all the way to yeah. Again, use the Wayback Machine. But I think it's time that we really embrace Tyler Toffoli's nicknames in Calgary and bring back Cupcake.
Solid plan. I think that's a great plan. Flames fans, you heard it here. There's your job. So I think we've had a great success on today's show, bringing the Tyler Toffoli Cupcake discourse back into the common narrative. And I'm glad that you've all gone on this journey with us here on Locked On NHL. We, of course, will be back next Wednesday, but of course, there is content all day, every day of the week here on Locked On NHL. You can hear from great hosts talking about everything in the NHL. In the meantime, you can find me on Twitter at @RightSaidSarah, talking about the Kings, talking about some AHL stuff, and also I don't know, dogs or something. Jess, where can folks find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Jess Belmosto. I'm usually yelling about women's hockey and the PHF's erasure in the NHL, but that's, it's a really great atmosphere on my Twitter. We just make a lot of jokes and gently poke fun at other people who have just horribly incorrect takes, like calling Tyler Toffoli toxic. So
I think that's a great way to use your social media platform. So that is it for us today here on Locked On NHL. Now that you're done here, also go and check out Locked On Fantasy Hockey, where hosts Steele Roden and Flip Livingstone help you become the expert of your fantasy league. So go check out the show. Use it to crush all of your coworkers and friends' hopes and dreams in your fantasy league. The show is, of course, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. That is it for us today here on Locked On NHL. Make sure you come back tomorrow and every day of the week for more hockey news here on Locked On NHL, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.